I've spent all of my adult life learning the craft of acting, and although I didn't go to film school, I did a lot of my learning on actual film sets, including Stranger Things, FBI, and I also filmed an episode of Law & Order. Many of these techniques are industry secrets that you never know unless you worked on a set before. But the irony is anybody can do them easily, even at home when you're recording your auditions. So today, I'm gonna show you 50 of my favorite acting secrets that maybe make you look like you know what you're doing. On FBI, my arm had to nervously shake while I was holding a gun. Never force shaking like this because it just looks so fake. Instead, you need to actually flex whatever part of your body needs to shake. And then it will achieve a much more natural, nervous shaking effect. When you are dirty in the shot, meaning part of your shoulders in the shot for your scene partner's close-up, you need to stay as still as possible. Many professional actors do not actually cry naturally on set. They just use something called a tear stick that you can actually get for yourself relatively cheap and inject potentially into your audition tapes. But be very careful when you're doing that, because one of the easiest ways to tell that an actor is using a tear stick is their grief muscle isn't flexed. The grief muscle is basically right between your forehead, and it's one of the easiest ways to tell when someone is fake crying, because that is what organically happens when someone is actually experiencing the emotion. This right here is dead space. So stop just walking into frame. It adds nothing to your performance. Move your camera back, start from behind, and walk into it. In this way, we see a lot more of that pre-life, what you're thinking as you're walking into this scene and how your body language is impacting the way that you're communicating to this person across from you. It's incredibly unnatural and almost creepy to just stare at your scene partner the entire time. So incorporate the environment. Don't be afraid to look around when it's appropriate. Acting is not about remembering your lines. In fact, a lot of actors don't even have it fully memorized by the time they get on set. It's just about living in the truth of your character and understanding them so incredibly well, it's effortless to adapt to whatever your scene partner or your director gives you. If casting directors are deciding whether or not to put you in their show, they'll usually be more focused on your acting when the other person is speaking, because they want to see that you're able to actually be present as the character. Here's the thing, you need to make sure that you don't make a ton of noise or move props in the middle of someone's dialogue, because that muddies all of the audio up. So instead, you need to make sure it's in between all of the lines. And then the editors and audio guys will appreciate you. Keep that in mind next time you are making bongos out of Clorox bottles in your pants. Hey! Stop yelling! You beginning actors are thinking that this is what power means. The louder I am, the more powerful I am. When in reality, what it actually means is you are slowly losing control. The act of shouting is not what actually makes it scary. It's the fact that this person of power is starting to lose that control and you have no idea what they're about to do. But the second we feel like you're shouting to try to scare us, the illusion is broken because it feels like you're overcompensating. Tell me which of these is better. No, get the fuck away from me! Get the fuck away from me. Likewise, the quieter someone talks, the more control they tend to have. But you can also overdo this, like I did in Stranger Things, where it becomes this over-aggressive ASMR, which is why I had to actually re-record that line like a year later in an ADR booth. I was holding back. I'm the farthest thing from a psycho. Characters are at their best when they have clothes that help them stand out from the background, while being in front of a background that doesn't wash out your skin tone. This way, you really pop on screen, and it's easier to focus on you as the performer. Screaming beforehand can make your intensely emotional breakdowns feel a lot more real. Before her big emotional breakdown in Stranger Things, where she finds herself stuck in the rainbow room, Millie would go into a corner of the set, scream as hard as she could, and then this got her body into the emotional stakes of the scene. This way, the adrenaline was actually in her body and she didn't have to just pretend like it was. I used Millie's advice when I was filming FBI, and after I screamed, I just heard this loud, painful grunt as the sound guy took his headphones off and then had to just profusely apologize. Felt so bad, so just always warn everybody on set if you're going to do something like that. Yeah, if your character is ending the scene the exact same way they started it, then you've done something wrong. See, in a story, every single scene needs to move the plot forward, or else it wouldn't even be necessary. So even if it's not obvious from the script, always look for your character's mini arc. Even if your character is seemingly one note through the whole scene, you can still make it interesting by raising the stakes or intensity up or down. So maybe you're starting at a 5 and ending at an 8, or it could be vice versa. On most film sets, you are going to be filming for 6 to 12 hours a day, and I very quickly learned on set of Stranger Things that when you have these high intensity scenes, you can't stay there all day unless you want to look like this. It's actually just not physically possible. I popped veins in my eyes, lost my voice, almost passed out from going too hard for too long.
My entire body was literally tingling all over, and I thought I might have a heart attack. It was a little scary.
Learn to manage your energy. You shouldn't go all out during rehearsals or during your scene partner's coverage. Save the majority of the intensity only for when the camera is actually recording your close-up. Most actors are just so concerned with making sure you know everything that they're feeling. They want the audience to fully enjoy and embrace their brilliant acting, which is what often causes them to over-emote and the scene starts to feel fake. So relax, just take your focus off of your face and onto your scene partner. And all you need to do is trust that as long as you're connected to that person that you're talking to, the audience is going to feel it, and you don't have to force it. It'll just happen organically. Most beginner actors care way too much about how they should say each line, but in reality, that just makes your performance feel fake. Just worry about your character's relationship to the person they're talking to, and allow your delivery to adapt and change based off of what they're doing, and add in your character's objective. You got the two primary things that inform your delivery in a spontaneous fashion. Whenever I was cast as number 2 and arrived on set, I journaled from the perspective of the character, as if it was the night before, every single day in this script. How I hoped things might change, what I feared wouldn't change, the different ways that the characters impacted my self-worth or self-esteem, and how I hoped I could change their minds throughout this little chunk of the story. When acting in the scene, you need to let your scene partner earn the turn. This means you only look at them when they have done something that earns your attention. You don't just give out your attention willy-nilly. This is much more interesting to watch as a viewer than an actor that just stares at their scene partner the entire time for the entire scene. Actors just love crying in public, but do you think real people love crying in public? No, it is way more impactful for you to actually play a character trying their hardest not to cry, but then they fail and the tears happen to come anyway. And if they do come, wipe that shit away. No one just lets tears stay on their face unattended to, unless you're playing one type of character, the intentionally manipulative character who is actually leveraging their tears to try to manipulate the person across from them into giving them something. And so in this case, because the character is manipulative, you can break this rule and let the tears free roam. Of course, now that I do, oh, there it is. There it is. Never ever cut yourself early. Recently, while filming Law and Order, there was one take that for whatever reason was going on way longer than it ever did. Mariska had already exited. It was lingering on me. I was having my last moment. And instead of cutting myself off, I just let myself ride that last moment, which led to, without me trying, these tears and snot perfectly streaming down my face as if a dam broke. And I stayed in that zone until I heard, "Cut. Damn, that's genius." Whatever I was doing in that last reaction was so captivating to the director that he wanted more of it. He wanted to linger on it. And if I arbitrarily cut myself off, that moment would have never existed. If you read a script and then just immediately try to act out exactly what your first impression of the scene is, you will be like 99% of other actors. Dig deeper, look for more layers, and find a way to harness your unique edge, the type of character you play better than anyone else, that you can now inject into this role so that you can make it more special and unique to you and more likely to stand out to casting directors. This doesn't mean to just do the opposite of the script, because you still need to honor the story in the character, just from a slightly different lens. And be very careful about just being different for the sake of being different. It's incredibly annoying. It makes it seem like you're trying to get attention or impress them, and ultimately it just feels like you're making it about you instead of making it about the character and the story. When acting in a group of characters, it's important to always contrast each other. So he's gonna be so dead and lifeless, and I have to be overcompensating by being full of energy, full of life, so that we have this really cool counterbalance, this really cool contrast. In my Stranger Things scene where I beat down 11, I just look so dark and unhinged, while all of the other numbers are just enjoying beating the crap out of 11. My seriousness works because of how playful the other numbers are, and vice versa. Their playfulness works because of how serious I am. Professional actors, yes, even men wear foundation on set. They do. So instead of resisting that, or y'all male actors thinking that it's feminine to wear makeup, just lean into it and try to look your best, because on camera, every impurity, every piece of acne or wrinkle is magnified. And so looking your best will allow you to look the most like what they can expect you to look like on set. But also don't be like me, who has a very oily face, and turn yourself into this grease box that light just bounces and reflects off of. When I was on Law & Order, I found the two products that I now use for all of my auditions. You essentially put an anti-shine on your face before you start putting the makeup on, so that it can suck up the extra moisture from your routine that you just did in the morning. And then at the end of it, you pair it with this powder that, again, whatever shine is as a result of the makeup, it eliminates that as well, which is how it makes film and TV almost look as though they're not even wearing makeup, especially men, which is why you maybe didn't know that even male actors were wearing makeup on set. Yeah, guys, the biggest giveaway that you're a beginner actor is when you just constantly are sighing throughout the scene. Most of the time, actors are doing this just to look intense, or because they're stalling getting to the emotional place they need to be because they just don't feel it yet. So instead of just sighing in between your lines, let the sigh come out with your lines. This way it just keeps it flowing, and you don't have to sacrifice an unnecessary pause that you haven't earned. The biggest factor that will determine if you get cast in a role is not your acting ability, but how you look.
All right, I'm gonna go cry.
It doesn't matter how good I am at acting, I am never going to get cast in a role like David Harbour as Hopper, because I just, hopefully, don't look like a middle-aged man. The secret is to find out the type of characters that you naturally look like, and then master playing those typecasts, because now when those types of characters come up, you're going to be the obvious choice. Don't be afraid to be boring. Sometimes as actors, we feel the need to just make every line interesting. But not everything needs to have this super deep, grand subtext. Sometimes a line just needs to be said and over with. You need to throw it away so that a much more important line actually has the importance. Because if every single line is important, nothing is actually important. When filming Law & Order, I discovered that network television moves extremely fast. In procedural shows, you have only 43 minutes to tell an entire story. You don't have time to have all of these randomly unmotivated movements. Every time you move, it needs to have some type of motivation, or else you're just being busy for the sake of being busy, and you're probably over animated. So let every movement come with the line and have some type of motivation, or else it's not worth doing. Due to tax expenses, most projects do not film in Los Angeles anymore, meaning they're already budgeting flying actors out from Los Angeles. So because they're already planning to fly someone out, where they fly that person out doesn't really matter. Meaning in 2025, you can basically become an actor from anywhere in the world. If like me, you destroy your liver by drinking 400 milligrams of caffeine a day to stay dialed in for 6 or more hours straight of filming, make sure to drink equal amounts of water so you don't get this vicious headache like I almost always have. I've gotten headaches on every single show I've done because of dehydration while jacking up my caffeine intake. Your job is not to impress the people watching you with your acting skills. Your job is to be truthful to the character and to the story, so the viewers forget they're even watching a performance. When I feel like my work is phenomenal acting, it's usually exactly that, acting. To get auditions like I have, you absolutely do need an agent, but be very careful once you get an agent and start booking those bigger roles, because then some bigger agencies might see your success and try to poach you for themselves. Sometimes they only want you for themselves so that they have you stop competing with other bigger named actors on their roster. They just throw you up on a shelf, forget you ever existed. But also, some agents really do love newcomers and they want you to succeed. I'm very lucky in that my Los Angeles agent has always had my best interest at heart and specializes in signing new actors, helping them break into the industry. So just know there are good and bad apples out there. Just be careful, do your due diligence before you sign. One of the most important things you can have as an actor is, in fact, focus. And this is why having some type of meditation or breathwork ritual, whether you're spiritual or not, can heavily impact your ability to stay present whenever you're on a heavily bustling set and things start to go wrong or start to distract you. Maybe you get a note you don't agree with, you start freaking out because you're not going in the right path you originally wanted to, and all you have to do is get back in touch with your breath, and it'll get you out of your head and into your body, as long as you don't have flies buzzing in your ear. Whenever I first watched my episode of FBI, I was just so grossed out by all of this spit coming in and out of my mouth. Why did I not feel it in the moment? Why did no one tell me to wipe it away? But then I realized if this character is holding cops hostage, they're not going to notice the spit in the corner of their mouth either. Why am I trying to have a perfect performance of an imperfect character? You do need connections to make it in this industry. However, in 2025, you can do that from anywhere. And most of the time, your reputation in the beginning comes through your audition tapes. Not only will your audition tapes that you consistently produce time and time again often be the things that lead to your first breakout role, like it did with me in Stranger Things, because that's how casting directors know your strengths and start to recognize you as a great actor. You'll notice some of them have casting director workshops, but as someone that frequently gets called by the same core group of casting directors that know my strengths, I can tell you auditions will speak louder than attending their workshops. There are about 160,000 professional actors in the United States who are part of a group called SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, which is the main union for film and TV actors, but only 14% of them make at least $26,000 a year, which is the minimum you need to get health insurance through the union. This means most actors do not get steady work or earn a whole lot of money from acting every year. So if you book a job, not only, of course, be thankful and give it everything you have, but also know that even though it's a lot of money for a brief amount of work, you need to make it last. In comedy, you never want to joke the joke, meaning trying just way too hard to make the line funny instead of just letting it be funny. See how cringy that was? Steve Carell from The Office is not the funniest stand-up ever. He just always believes the lines that he says, no matter how ridiculous they are.
I need a username. Little Kid Lover. That way people will know exactly where my priorities are at.
Unless you're using it to record yourself, keep your phone out of sight and out of mind when filming. Denis Villeneuve bans phones entirely on his sets. He says filmmaking requires everyone to be present. And I totally agree, but if you do have it on set, just make sure it's on Do Not Disturb, not silent or vibrate. On Law & Order, one of our takes was ruined when someone got a notification. The vibration was loud enough, it couldn't be worked around. So don't be that person. Your off-camera behavior is remembered more than your on-camera work. A director will bring back a decent actor who is easy to work with before this brilliant diva. Every job is a potential referral, and you need to prioritize not just being a good performer, but being smooth as butter to work with, knowing how to take direction. And on that note, sometimes actors just hate the lines that they have to say, whether you're on a student film or being paid $5 million to do a major blockbuster movie. One piece of wisdom that I got from Ice-T on Law & Order that really stuck with me is do what the script tells you to do, even if it doesn't always feel truthful, because you'll be amazed how it turns out on TV. The director has the bird's eye view and knows ultimately what is needed for the story beyond just what is needed for the actor. The best actors not only want their performance to be the best it can be, but they also want their scene partner's performance to be the best it can be. When we filmed my electrocution scene in Stranger Things, Matthew Modine gave me so much to work with, even when the camera wasn't on him. And you can also translate this to your auditions, where instead of just acting as if you're trying to book the role, act as if you're trying to get your scene partner to book the role, and then just give them everything they could possibly need to give an amazing performance. Now, the biggest secret of creativity is just failing a lot. You have to be okay with the humiliation and embarrassment that naturally comes with some bad performances, especially in something as competitive as acting. You need an ego that is healthy enough so you believe in yourself, you have confidence, but you also need to be able to kill your ego enough to know when it's time to get better. And if you can figure out the balance in that, you will go far in this industry. So those are 50 acting secrets/hacks that I've learned so far on my time on film sets, but I nearly didn't make it on any sets at all when at the beginning of my career I ruined my relationship with certain casting directors. And if you want to learn more about that story so you do not repeat all of that, then go click this right up here.
Hello, I'm in the scene. I'm an actor that is acting. Look at me.
Which was more interesting? Okay, that's not a valid example.